Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to another World of Tanks review. This time we are looking at the German premium medium tank, the Panther M10. Sits here in the game at tier 7. Now, as usual, a little bit of history for you. Basically, the Germans decided during the latter part of the Second World War to take a couple of Panther tanks and try to disguise them as American M10 Wolverines. This might sound a little bit daft, but the idea was that in an engagement, these tanks would be able to do a lot of damage because hopefully the Americans wouldn't recognise them as German Panther tanks. Instead, they would think they were American Wolverines and would wonder where on earth they were getting shot from. And so the Panthers would be able to do quite a lot of damage without being identified as hostiles. And actually the Germans put quite a lot of effort into this. If you compare this model with kind of a regular Panther, there's things like you lose the distinctive cupola. There are these additional metal plates added to try and make the turret look more Wolverine-like, more M10-like. And actually, when one of these machines that the Americans captured relatively intact, when they looked on the inside, this even extended to things like there being American uniforms and other American apparel inside the machine. So the German army really had put quite a lot of effort into trying to disguise these things as pretty authentic American M10 Wolverine tank destroyers, including, you know, American insignia on the outside of the tank and all of that stuff. So these things were produced in relatively small numbers. There were only, well, the Americans postulated that there were about 10 of these that had been made. The designations of the vehicles that they managed to see seems to indicate there were about 10 of these machines. The American opinion was that in the right situation, these things could actually have caused an awful lot of damage. As it was, there were only a couple of them encountered, and as far as I'm aware, generally they were encountered pretty much on their own, or in very isolated positions, so it wasn't actually a massive problem. And they all had one thing that you don't see in the World of Tanks model, actually, is they had pretty distinctive numbers on the tanks' designations. So presumably the Wehrmacht would have been able to identify those machines as their own. But as it was, there weren't many of these things anyway. They weren't able to have a big impact. But it was an interesting idea nonetheless. So before we get any further, if all you want to know is kind of a brief rundown of this vehicle, essentially what you have is a stock Panther with preferential matchmaking. If that's all you're interested in, away with ye. Those of you who are still here, expect me to ramble and go on like normal. So what is it we actually get with this machine? Well, it is a tier 7 premium medium tank, and tier 7 medium tanks have a bit of a reputation for being rather mediocre. They tend to really lack in the gun department, as often they are equipped with the same gun that you find on the tier 6 machine, and so your penetration and so on are a bit lacking, and this is no exception. We will talk more about the gun in a moment, but you have the L70 75mm gun, the same gun you can use on the VK3002M, the 3001D, the Stug 3, and the list goes on. Nonetheless, let's just have a quick rundown of this vehicle. You have 1300 hit points, which for a tier 7 medium tank is very, very healthy. There are tier 8 medium tanks that have that hit points, or wish that they had that hit point pool. Hull armor, 85mm on the front, 50 on the sides, 40 on the rear. It means that you have a chance of bouncing shots here or there, and certainly when you're top tier, you can kind of play this thing like a pseudo-heavy-ish, a bit like the regular Panther. Turret armor, 100 on the front, 45 on the side, 45 on the rear. This is basically a stock Panther turret. Don't expect it to be absolutely amazing. Things will put a shot straight through the front of this. Yes, you have a gun mantlet over the front, but there's also a hole in the turret where the gun is found, so bear that in mind. So the armor on this thing is okay. The hit points are very nice to have indeed. Mobility on this tank is it's alright. 700 horsepower engine on I mean the Germans don't do things small, 46-ton tank. giving you a specific power of 15 horsepower per ton. Top speed of 55 kilometers an hour forwards, 20 going backwards, traverse speed of 40.53. Actually, the mobility of this thing is a bit better in practice than on the regular Panther. And overall, it feels like kind of a fast heavy or a sluggish medium. It's not the fastest machine out there by any stretch of the imagination. As you might expect for such a large machine, let's just compare it with some other tanks. What other tanks can I compare the size with? Let's go for another tier 7 medium tank and see what we come up with. Okay, here is the Panther and here is the Comet. Yeah. The Panther always has been and always will be a very, very, very large machine. So its camera rating is pretty terrible. View range, 365 meters on the turret before any bonuses. That's actually a buff. It used to be 350 off the top of my head. View range isn't particularly good, which is a little bit of a letdown. You know, often at tier 7 you're looking at 370, 380 meters. So 365, it's not horrendously bad, but it's not good. And now let's talk a little bit about this gun. Now, this tank actually got removed from the game, or removed from the shop, and buffed a bit, and then brought back. So, yes, this is the same L70 75mm gun that you will have used on every German tank and their mother for friggin' ages. However, rate of fire of 15 rounds a minute combined with 135 alpha damage actually gives this thing a base DPM of around 2400, which, for the sake of comparison, is more than most of the tier 8 medium tanks, which have around the 2000 mark pretty often, maybe slightly above, and it's only a little bit behind the Comet, and the Comet is renowned for having high DPM. So actually the damage output of this tank potentially is pretty respectable. Back that up with 0.32 dispersion, a 2.3 second aim time with some not terrible soft stats, and actually the potential damage output of the gun is not too shabby. Of course, yes, it's still an L70, it still has 135 alpha damage, which is not very high at tier 7, though it's not that much lower than some of the other tier 7 medium tanks, but it is at the bottom of the pack. And of course, that 150 penetration isn't fantastic. However, two caveats on that. One, if you're willing to fire a little bit of APCR, that penetration goes up to 194. And two, the Panther M10 gets limited matchmaking. It only gets into tier 7 and 8 matches, no tier 9 matches. So, okay, this is a buffed version of the same gun that you find on a lot of tier 6 and even some tier 5 machines. However, you're not going to be meeting those tier 9 and 10 tanks against which this gun really struggles for adequacy. So, actually, it's not too bad in the firepower department, if we're going to be honest. It used to be that this thing lagged notably behind a lot of the other tier 7 medium tanks in terms of DPM, but as I say, it got a bit of loving by Wargaming, and so that isn't really the case anymore, and actually, in terms of raw DPM, it's now one of the higher values out there. The HE rounds, of course, 75mm HE at tier 7, pretty terrible, so I wouldn't put too much stock in those. I've got your standard set of consumables: first aid kit, repair kit, and fire extinguisher. I guess you could swap one of those out for chocolate. I haven't noticed particularly bad fire problems on this tank, so you could probably forgo the fire extinguisher if you wanted. But I wouldn't recommend getting rid of either the first aid kit or the repair kit. The only thing I would say is you might want to upgrade them to large versions, but that's entirely up to you. I find that particular set of equipment absolutely fine. In my experience, you don't need that much premium ammunition. I can't remember the last time I fired it out of this gun, bearing in mind, of course, that, again, that limited matchmaking limits the amount you might need to use that. Also worth bearing in mind, you get quite a large ammo supply in this tank, as you do with the regular Panther. So feel free to take some more specialised rounds. You do have the ammo capacity for it. In terms of equipment, well, I've got a gun rammer, I've got vents. You can't take a vertical stabilizer on this thing, as it's a medium tank at tier 7 and it's not British or American. Coated optics, the view range isn't great, so I don't personally use coated optics. I use binocular telescopes instead. I'm not sure there's anything else that's really worth noting. Maybe a toolbox, but I think that third slot wants to be either optics or binocular telescopes. You do occasionally have ammo rack problems like you do on the Panther, but I don't personally find it so bad that you want to devote an entire bit of equipment just for getting around that problem. This is of course a premium tank, so there's no grind to worry about or anything like that. If you are interested in picking it up, how much is it? Well, it's of the order of 5,750 gold. Is that worth it? Bearing in mind you could pick up, so a Panther 88 would be 7,300, the VK is actually 7,700 compared to the VK. The Panther's darn cheap. That is an expensive tier 7 premium. Kruppstreyer Waffenträger still more expensive, and the Kruppstreyer is not very good. So that price isn't too bad. Yeah, you could pick it up if you wanted. Same recommendation I always make. If you are interested in any of these premium tanks, wait for it to be on discount. Is there anything else I really need to say in the garage? Oh yes, one of the other things they did with this machine, if memory serves, was slightly buff the gun depression when they brought it back. So you get 8 degrees of gun depression, but we will talk about that more in a moment, along with module locations and the armor profile. So, without any further ado, I think it's time we had a look at those things and some gameplay. Not mentioning crew skills here, of course, because this is a premium tank, and just use whatever German premium tank crew you have. And honestly, this machine isn't really special enough to warrant you buying it just for its own sake. So I would just use whatever German medium tank crew you already have. Right, module location time. So from the front of the tank you have got the radio operator sitting here on the, well, it's the left hand side of the hull as you look at it. On the other side of the hull, where this blue patch is, you have the driver. Remember I mentioned those ammo racks? Side of this tank is made of ammo racks. So if you want to ammo rack this thing, shoot it in the hull. Front 2/3 of the tank basically, and the rear chunk of the tank is like engine and fuel tank, so you can't really go too far wrong. Gunner here, commander back here towards the rear of the turret. From the rear, nothing too surprising, engine and commander, as we mentioned earlier on. From the right hand side, you've got your loader still in the turret, more engine and fuel tanks and all that jazz. Radio operator here, as we said, and ammo racks. And really it's the ammo racks that can get annoying in this tank, all things considered. So when angling this machine, do be aware that ammo racks are not your friend. You really don't want to over angle this tank and get penetrated in the side. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the armor profile. Okay then, let's take a quick look at the Panther M10's armor layout. Nothing particularly surprising from the rear. 46, pretty pathetic. 50mm of effective armor from the rear of the hull, but it is worth noting, because they tried to make the Panthers look like M10 Wolverines, lots of spaced armor has been added. And that's even true on the rear of the hull. So you have the natural 40mm of armor on the rear of this tank, plus 5mm of spaced armor, and there's a bit of angling going on there, giving you 54 equivalent. It's not really going to stop anything, but it can become useful on other parts of the tank. Side of the machine, on the turret, you got 45mm of armor, plus another 5mm of spaced armor. Again, probably not going to save your bacon from anything that tries to penetrate you. Then the hull is split up into a couple of different zones. Upper part of this section, you've got 50mm, just 50mm, bit of angling going on. These sections you got 65, again nothing to really get too excited about. This part just above the tracks, you have 50 plus 5mm of spaced armor. I mean, the side of this tank is not particularly well armored, but it does mean that with some angling you can get some reasonable armor values, but then again, only really if you're at an auto bounce angle. If you're not, that 50mm is only going to be just over 100. That bit will be a little bit better, but the lack of complete coverage is a problem. From the front of the tank, front of the hull, you've got 85mm like the regular Panther, plus 5mm of spaced armor, plus some angling, which gives you about 140-ish millimeters of armor before you start angling the tank yourself. So in practice this means you can bounce some lower tier light and medium tanks, which is nice. Front of the turret you've got, well, quite a big armor hole around the gun, I'm afraid. There are some zones that are pretty ridiculous, like 255, 515 right there. But most of this, there's 178. A good amount of it anyway struggles to get much above about 120mm of effective armor. So the armor on this tank is okay. It's got lots of spaced armor slapped on it, but unlike the Super Pershing, that doesn't turn this thing into a ridiculously heavily armed monstrosity. It is alright in terms of armor. Starting off with the tier 7 match so that we are top tier. Second game will of course be bottom tier. Well, remember that the Panther M10 gets limited matchmaking, so the second match will be tier 8, which is the Panther M10's quote-unquote bottom tier. So, we're here on Westfield, which is a slightly awkward map if you spawn in a medium tank, because they spawn you down in the bottom of the valley. We are going to drive up this hill in order to actually get into the fight where it's meaningful. And here you can see the mobility of the Panther M10, which is kind of... the top speed isn't too bad once you get going, but that 15 horsepower per ton, while not complete travesty, it leaves a bit to be desired, especially for a medium tank. Remembering, of course, this is a German medium tank, which anyone else in the Second World War would have classified as a heavy. So, yeah, go figure. And actually, this is more heavily armoured from the front than the German heavy tank, the Tiger, because angling. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily make a huge amount of sense, but there we go. Now, I was using this sort of right-hand side here to try and hide myself a little bit from anyone who might poke themselves out around the corner, like that KV2, but then I get a little bit careless. And hopefully that KV2 isn't going to slap me in the side. Ditto for that SU-100Y, that would be pretty sad. Looks like we should be okay. I have a shot there on the move. I'm not expecting it to really hit, but it's not as if I'm lacking ammunition, so let's just give it a go and see what happens. Patch 9.17 replay. Again, unfortunately, replay bugged. It seems to be, as I've said before, it seems to be a patch issue. Patch conflict issue rather than the replay being bugged per se, but there we go. What you gonna do? World of Tanks replay system has needed some lovin' for a long time. So we come up to this hill region because honestly this is pretty much the most important bit of this map. Managed to track this Comet in place. I could have rammed him there actually. The Panther M10 is much heavier and more heavily armoured than a Comet, and so ramming him wouldn't have been a terrible idea, and the Comet is dead anyway, so meh. Scoreline is 6-1. This is a little bit of a stomp. We just burst through on this flank and there wasn't much the enemy team were able to do about it, to be honest. T-43 away in the distance. There's an SU-100Y over there as well, and an SU-152 just found our IKV. Hopefully these bushes will keep me concealed. Have a punt at the T-43, but I'm not so lucky. And then focus on the SU-152. Haven't been spotted, so hopefully I should just be able to keep shooting this guy. Looks like someone's tracked him, and artillery should be gunning for him as well. And we actually pick up the kill on him for our first kill. Now the enemy team have kind of won the other flank in as much as they've gotten through to our soft squishy things, but we do have a VK over there, so the M7's more just driven all the way around. Hello Mr. T-43, put one shot in, second one doesn't do the business. Honestly, that wasn't a particularly well aimed shot, but there's now an M7 in our base eating our cookies. Still don't want to be a complete muppet and get slammed by that pair of Soviet tank destroyers. That would sting a lot, but we do actually want to do things, especially as this game appears to be coming to an end. We tried to make sure that we had aimed as much as possible, put one shot into the T-43, and there we go, we actually bounced the SU-100Y. Being a bit careful here, because while I could probably DPM down one of these TDs, two of them, that would be a bit dicey. Then again, he just flubbed his shot, at me. So we managed to bounce the, 440 alpha from the SU-100Y, which is fairly nice. Like I said, the armour can be useful. But you shouldn't rely on it all the time. You know, equal lower tier tanks, yeah, you can get some good stuff out of it. Higher tier tanks, Panther armour starts to fall apart. That SU-100 is backing off. The SU-100Y presumably has done similar, although I imagine we're probably about to find out with our face. And there's that Leo over there as well. Oh, there's the Y. Take a shot at him, manage to get some damage in, and there's a Leo in our flank. La 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 la. And he's going to be a problem. He's using the small gun. So, yeah, it's just annoying. Only put 2 shots into me though, which is something. Trying to back off and use concealment and all of that jazz to minimise the amount of damage I take, but at this point the Leo's the only one left. He's very screwed. Just a case of how many of us he can take out before he dies, and who's going to get the damage and the kill and all that stuff. So we're throwing caution to the wind, we're pushing forwards. I don't believe we've actually been spotted, then again, never mind, apparently we have. I'm not sure what crew I was training up here, so it might be that I didn't have Sixth Sense, can't remember, and haven't paid attention that closely. We get a little bit of assistance damage there on the Leo, as artillery, I think it was, lands a shot on him. And we're just going to see if we can polish this guy off. We've lost our commander, but it's not the end of the world. Let's not bother putting him back in, who cares. Leo's got 193 health left. It's actually, by the look of it, he might be stock. Pretty sure a fully upgraded Leo has more than 1,000 health. But nonetheless, there he is. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? He's taken a bit more damage, so there's some more spotting for me. Auto aim for the win. Might take a shot or two from this guy as I crest the ridge, but I don't care. And there is the kill, and that was the match. So that was the Panther M10 in a top tier game. Let's go and have a look at some slightly less favourable matchmaking. Worth looking at the stats of that game, of course. Second class mastery, fire for effect. We'll talk about experience and credits in a moment. Came second on our team. 1,453 damage done, which was actually the highest damage of anyone on our team. Not in the match though. The enemy T-43 did 3 more damage than me. It was one of those games where no one particularly carries. It was just a spread of damage across everyone on the team, although the Cromwell did pick up 5 kills, which is none too shabby for him. 18 shots fired, 12 hits, 12 pens for that damage count. Received 6 hits, 5 penetrated, 1 did not. 440 damage blocked by our armour, 6 enemy vehicles damaged, 2 destroyed, 954 assistance damage, over 36,000 credit profit with a standard account. Bear in mind this is not a tier 8 premium, so you don't get a monstrous credit multiplier, but it's still pretty respectable. And with everything taken into account for our daily double, that was 1,694 experience, plus a bit of free XP, again, with a standard account, and for only a 6-minute match that wasn't too bad. So let's go and have a look at the bottom tier game. Here we are then, tier 8 match, and this is an assault game on Erlenberg. We're on the defending team, and we'll just see what we can do. So, Erlenberg, first rule of Erlenberg, don't drown yourself. Second rule of Erlenberg, don't cross the river. And as Loki says, third rule, don't drown anyone else, I guess. I wish this AMX-12T would get out of the way. Thank you. Right. Push onwards. So, we are going to be going over to this flank. This is the... oh... yeah. This is the flank you generally want to be fighting over, in my experience, if you are on the defending team on this map. Clear out the 9 and 0 lines, and then deal with everything else. If you're wondering why I'm saying that, by all means go and have a look at my Erlenberg map tactics video. However, if you look at the mini-map, apparently 2/3 of our team didn't get the memo, and so I've got a sinking feeling about the overall result of this match anyway, because I'm pretty sure that 2/3 of our team is going to mess this up. Sorry about that. So we found a Hellcat over here, T-25-2 as well. We're not going to worry about what's happening on the other flank, just do what we can do and kill what we can kill. Both of these guys are pretty weakly armoured. The fact that the Hellcat has decided, screw you guys, I'm going home, perhaps indicates that he hasn't got all that much support, so it might just be a Hellkitty and that T-25. In that case, we should be able to flush them out pretty quickly if our team is kind of on the ball here. Yeah, I know. A team paying attention to what's going on, random battle queue, online multiplayer gaming, never gonna happen. No, you're right, it's not. But, a man can dream, can't he? Now, while the Panther M10 does have some armour, it does not have enough armour to charge down a pair of tank destroyers without a whole shed load of support. Having said that, this Hellcat apparently is completely oblivious to my presence here, and we're planning to make him regret that. There we go, there's our first kill. Scoreline is currently 1-1. We've lost our STRV-74, 1-2, 1-3 as we lose our AMX-12T and T-29, and there goes the Leo as well. Remember that 2/3 of our team that went on the 1 and 2 lines? Yeah. Well played, guys. Well played. So, going to keep pushing down here. If we can find that T-25-2, preferably if we can kill that T-25-2, that would be nice. Then we can head back and try and actually defend our base. Cromwell Berlin there, trying to see if he can find the T-25, although he has taken a lot of damage already so far. Oh, there's a VK over there as well. Okay. Dear Mr. Cromwell, be a bit careful. I'd rather you didn't die. Just saying. T-25 seems to want your babies, and doesn't seem to be about to ask permission. So, hello Mr. T-25. Now, we bounce a shot from a T-21 there. We put one into the T-25 too, but it bounces on his turret. And our AMX and Skoda have both moved up to give us a hand. Really want to flush these fellows out. We know there's a T-21 back there, which could be problematic, but we don't really have the time to faff around here. We need these guys to die. There goes the VK. T-25 needs to go down as well. Come on, kill this sucker. And ram him. Get shot by my own team because they're not paying attention to what's going on. Thankfully, the guy is so hopeless that he doesn't actually do any damage to me. He just damages my tracks. Still annoying though. Scoreline is 6-8. And we head back to defend the base. Yippee! Now, those people who went to the 1 and 2 lines, to give credit where credit is due, not all of them are dead yet. Which I guess is something, right? I mean, sure, why not? Found that T-21 who bounced on us earlier on. He's having a go at our Black Prince. Are we going to get there in time to do something about it? Ooh! Ooh! Black Prince takes out the T-21. Oh my god. And our T-34 kills the T-29. So actually this match is not going quite as atrociously badly as I had feared. The scoreline is at least even. Trying to take pot shots on this blasted Black Prince, but it's kind of awkward. This is quite long range, but he now appears to just be sitting there like a lemon, which is fine by me. Oh, and now he's tracked. By the way, we're losing more of our team in the process here, but I thought it was worth trying to take the opportunity to do something about a guy just sitting out in the open, and he is dead, but we lost 3 of our team in the same period of time. All those guys who were sitting on the 1 and 2 lines are now dead. There were enough of them that it took a little longer than it sometimes takes, but they still died anyway. Oh dear. So now we've got a Black Prince who is still the wrong side of the river, so he doesn't have enough cover, or as much cover as he might otherwise have. We have me, we have a Skoda T-25 who's on low health, and we had the AMX CDC who is on low health and could arguably be a little bit more careful with his shot selection. But, well, let's see what we can do. How much health has the Black Prince got? He's got a respectable chunk, about half of it. Okay, that's not the end of the world. So what we're going to do is put ourselves into a position where we can shoot the bad guys as they try and take our base. That is the plan. Now, this position isn't perfect. You don't have shots if they get into those buildings, which is why I didn't want that Black Prince over on the other side of the river. as he put himself in a position where we can't really support him very effectively. Oh, and there goes the Black Prince. So there's just the three of us left now. Well, to be fair to the AMX, he has put some damage into that SU-152. So he's a one-shot. Yippee. And the nice thing about this position is if you need to, you can come up to the bushes to do some spotting for yourself and then pull back so that the bushes are opaque, and then firing the gun won't remove the camouflage value that you get from the bushes. So basically you can spot and shoot for yourself, which I don't do there on the basis that the SU-152 has a terrible view range and I'm far enough away that I shouldn't get spotted. Super Pershing has now made it across the river, but he's made it across the river in a position that makes it quite awkward for us to counter him. AMX CDC is on really low health, and I am failing to penetrate the front of a Jagdpanther, which is slightly annoying. Now I believe I do fire a couple of APCR rounds at the front of that Jagdpanther, because it's getting really annoying that I can't penetrate him, and there's now just me left. And we kind of want to actually reset this base, but not all these shots are APCR, I feel I should point out. Oh, it looks like I've been spotted. I'm clearly training up a crew that doesn't have Sixth Sense. I've been spotted, which is a bit sad. So I'm going to get shot a lot, and there's no way I'm going to get out of this. Whoa, I dodged that shot. Trying to back off into a position from which I'm... oh, well, maybe I can survive a little bit longer. Hello, Mr. Jagdpanther. There we go. If we can keep shooting the Jagdpanther, we can at least do some damage. We can keep resetting the base. That one bounced, unfortunately. Because frontally, I can't really deal with the Super Pershing. Well, I guess shoot him in the top of the turret with APCR. That's about it, but he's not going to really care. Even if I shave 150 health off him, he'll just kill me. And that was the match. Unfortunately, our team were pretty horrible. Remember, kids, don't cross the river on Erlenberg. It's a bad plan. Yeah, that was the result. So let's go and have a look at the post-game stats. Okay, well, dodgy team to one side. What did we actually manage to achieve in that match? A respectable amount of damage spread across a few different tanks, and even though it was a defeat, without any heroic resistance or anything, we picked up third class mastery, which isn't too bad. Sharpshooter, fire for effect, and bruiser ribbons as well. Finished the top of our team with 2,217 damage done, 1 kill, and 560 base experience. The T-34 on our team, he was one of the people who went over to the fail flank, but he at least managed 3.6k damage and 2 kills before he went down. The AMX CDC, well, he did okay. Skoda T25 did alright, given that he was not a top tier tank, but it just starts getting really depressing when you look further down the list. Black Prince 355, Jagdpanther 2 1000, Leo 270, and yeah. Anyway, enemy team, well done to Death Adder 84 in his Super Purging, as well as killing me. He managed 2.6k damage, 5 kills, 1404 base experience, so that's probably an ace tanker for him. Good job. SU-152 also got a pretty nice amount of experience, or of damage, sorry, out of that match, and the T28 prototype, and that was really the difference. On our team, we had 2 tanks with more than 2,000 damage. The enemy team had 3. Or if you want to look at 1,000 damage plus, you know, you get the idea. We had 3 people who did 0 damage. The enemy team had only 1 person. They were just consistently better than our team, which is a bit unfortunate, but there we go. 32 shots fired, 28 hits, 16 penetrations, 2.2k damage, 1,376 damage from more than 300 meters. 115 damage blocked by our armor. Our armor didn't really do a great deal of much there. It only bounced the shot from the T21. Everything else penetrated. 8 enemy vehicles damaged, 1 of them killed, 6 assistance damage, 63 base defense points, 2.6 kilometers traveled. Actually, you can see from the ammunition resupply cost, we didn't fire any premium ammo. It was all good old-fashioned regular armor piercing. And with a premium account this time, we made a 49,000 credit profit. with that nice amount of damage, and over 1,000 experience with a premium account, bear in mind, when I played this game, which isn't too bad. Even with a standard account, that would have been 600 and, well, basically 700 experience when you, in fact, exactly 700 experience when you throw in the free experience as well. So not a bad showing for the Panther M10 there. So let's go and round things off in the garage. Overall verdict on the Panther 88, Panther M10. It's not a bad machine. It did benefit from Wargaming's buffs. That was nice. It's not a machine that I would desperately go out and buy if you don't already own one. And if you are interested in it, I would certainly wait until the thing is on discount. I mean, it's not that special, if I'm going to be honest. But it's not a bad machine. So if you think you might be interested in it, I guess go for it. It's alright. My teams in it haven't been particularly good. And it is quite a rare machine to come across, to be fair. It's not too difficult to pick up those things like ace tankers and whatnot. The XP requirements across the board seem pretty low in this tank. So there we go. That's my opinion. It's alright. Nothing too special, but it's okay. If you enjoyed or found informative that video, by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.